Hello, welcome to the Daily Grind here on Latte Firm, Tuesday the 29th of July. And the boys have finished their tour of Singapore. But what have we learned about Arsenal and Arteta and the collection of players that Berta and Arteta have cobbled together for the new season ahead? I'm delighted, ladies and gents, boys and girls, to be joined by my good friend Art de Roche of The Athletic. Art, welcome back to the firm. How are you, bud?
Thank you. I'm all good, thanks. I was about to say good morning, but that just shows where my mind is. It's morning somewhere, I'm sure. So, yeah, good evening to those in the UK. Good afternoon to those in America. And yeah, happy to
You
be
know,
back.
you know your time difference. You know your time zones. Fantastic.
Yeah. I'm well practiced, well practiced.
Welcome to the channel again, Art, my friend. I hope you're well, and I hope those of you who are watching have had a really good start to your weeks. Arsenal, of course, in action in a couple of days' time, but in Hong Kong, we play our North London rivals Spurs in a weird pre-season friendly, but we'll talk about that maybe towards the end. Tonight's show, Art, I'm going to put to you some questions about my observations and just general thoughts. I want to get your thoughts on any potential changes in personnel in terms of playing style, what we sort of learned from this squad of players from the tiny sample size of 2 games, the win against AC Milan and, of course, the win against Newcastle. And chat, get involved. I will come to your comments very, very shortly. And if you're tuning in for the first time and you enjoy the content, please do, of course, like the video and subscribe. 2 games back-to-back in Singapore. Obviously, a great opportunity for the club to go out to another part of the world and embrace our fans because we are a truly gargantuan global club. What have you made of the Singapore break for us, Art?
Yeah, I've enjoyed the game. So I was actually getting quite itchy feet throughout July just because of how late the games actually came. So I think the first game was on the 23rd of July, which seems so late for a pre-season to actually start. So at first I was just happy to see some Arsenal football. But I think especially as that AC Milan game progressed, you saw, I think, Arsenal started to play a bit better than they started the game. So I was really encouraged by that. And then I think the Newcastle game was quite similar, really. The game got better as it went on. So yeah, I've been kind of pleasantly, I wouldn't say surprised, but I'm glad to see that it seems like they've kind of hit the ground running so far in pre-season.
Yeah, look, it's always nice to get 2 wins out of 2. I think going into the fixtures, me and many other Arsenal fans were probably a little bit cautious about a friendly against Newcastle, a very physical team, a team that we've had some spice with over the last sort of 2-3 years in particular. Now, they've had a slightly delayed and very unusual start to their sort of pre-season with all the transfer shenanigans that has been sort of surrounding that club, but also they came out to Singapore slightly later than we did, and we've won both games, which is fantastic. A lot of people showing you a lot of love in the chat, which is always great to see. And Dave's ahead of the game says, what have we learned from Singapore? Max Stalman is going to win the Ballon d'Or after coming on as a sub and scoring the winning goal in the Champions League final this season to come. Dave, keep the chat coming. I love it. I'm going to put to you some scenarios, Art. And basically, look, it might be very short, sort of fixed answers, and chat, get involved. I'll pick out some of the content, some of the comments as we go through. First up, I kind of know what you're going to say here, but Kepa, impressive in the penalty shootout against AC Milan, saving 3 of his pens, making his debut, of course, for Arsenal, but in a non-competitive environment. Could there potentially be a battle for number 1, or is it absolutely clear-cut for you?
For me, it's clear cut, but I think everyone would have said the same about Aaron Ramsdale, about Bernd Leno. What my read on the situation is you don't want another situation where it could be, say, Aaron Ramsdale usurping Bernd Leno and Raya doing the same to Ramsdale. So I think what I take away is it's great to have Kepa show that he does have the quality to step in when needed. He's a clear upgrade on Neto from last season. I remember being at the Girona game and just thinking, what on earth is going on? And yeah, so that's my kind of take on it. I think having someone who's also familiar with playing that role is helpful because obviously he was a starter at Bournemouth last season, but he's done that at Chelsea and Real Madrid too. So it's not something he's unfamiliar with. I think it's something that's a good thing for Arsenal. And to be fair, if it does become a battle, like Donald says, I think Raya's probably established and confident enough not to be kind of almost shaken like he was when he first joined the club. He seems a lot more assured in his goalkeeping now. So I think it's a very different situation to the ones in the past.
I'll throw you a little curveball. And listen, I'm with you. When Aaron Ramsdale was in goal and David Raya arrived, I was like, what is going on? How are we possibly, what are we doing? Ramsdale's a fan favourite. Of course, we wish Ramsdale well if he is to join Newcastle, of course. But like, he's come in and he's sort of elevated the game. But towards the back end of last season, David Raya, I think, suffered from that mental fatigue of being a goalkeeper where he made 2 or 3 quick mistakes in very quick succession. And I think, we joke about Neto, but had Kepa have been in the background, I wonder if maybe that change would have been made a bit sooner, or if that change would have been made at all. And Kepa's a sort of goalkeeper who's got the pedigree and the ability to come in and do a good job between the sticks and maybe sort of hold on to at least, game time for 2, 3, 4 games in a row to give David Raya a bit of rest and a bit of, mental sort of rest. But he's capable, is what I'm saying. And actually, once he has an opportunity, he is going to have to grab it with both hands, pun intended, and he is going to have to try and maintain a run in the team. But of course, we know now David Raya, not only is a shot stopper, back-to-back, Golden Glove winner, elite ball control and distribution as a keeper. He's done phenomenal things in goal for Arsenal. But I think, like Donald says, it is really great to see that competition. So I'm hoping that there is going to be competition in between the sticks this season. Let's move up the field. Talk about our defensive options before we come on to Zinchenko and before everyone starts shouting at me, no, FK, we got to sell this guy. I know we got to sell this guy. We've got to raise money for Eze, of course. But when you look at the defensive, the Ministry of Defence, as I call it, that we've sort of gathered on that left-hand side. And I look at, let's talk about Ricky Calafiori playing at left centre-back. I thought he was outstanding in that first half against AC Milan. The way he reads and anticipates the game, he's so quick and he's so clean in the way that he sort of steps up and he's sort of aggressive in that sort of closing the ball down on that quick first tackle. Mm-hmm. But physically, he's getting to that stage where you think, are we going to get 20, 25 games out of this guy? What did you make of his performance and what do you make of his role, I guess, going into next season?
Yeah, similar to you, I thought he was really promising. I was taking notes during the game. I wasn't working the game, but obviously I think naturally you just take notes further down the line. And he was actually the player that I think had written his name down the most in that first half, just because I think there were moments where there's one moment, I think one of his first real involvements where he underlapped into the Newcastle penalty area. And I was like, wait, he's not playing left back in this game. So why is he doing that? But I thought it was a really, really cool kind of moment because it showed how different players can provide different threats for this Arsenal team. Obviously, Gabriel playing centre-back won't be making those runs and we won't expect him to, but his skill set is just different. So from a performance perspective, I was really, really encouraged by Calafiori because it showed that, okay, even though he played most of his games at left back last season, he can be an option in there and play alongside Miles Lewis-Skelly at times as well. But similar thing to you, as soon as he went down in the second half, I just thought, okay, is this something that Arsenal are going to have to deal with again throughout this season? To be fair, I think there was a video online today where he looked fine, so hopefully it wasn't too serious. But yeah, it is one where I think he needs to be managed really, really well because you can see the talent is there.
You can indeed. Anthony DeCamp, my good friend DK, who is at Jukester on social, says Calafiori needs a season without injury before we start thinking him about as a potential starter. I mean, just on the Calafiori thing, there was a cameo, I think it was against Newcastle towards the back end of last season, that first 20 minutes of the second half where he came on and was just outstanding. And what I love about Calafiori, obviously a very sort of progressive and, good central defender, left-sided centre-back, but he's so good on the ball. And when he played, when he sort of pushes up, I've seen Miles Lewis-Skelly, in particular in these two games, do the overlap, which is quite unusual. Like I've noticed that, and that allows obviously Martinelli to play a little bit narrower, but it also allows Calafiori to kind of step up if we need to and reshape the team. And I think this is, and sorry, just one last thing. Like people are going to maybe bash me for this, but I think Calafiori is better in the final third than Gabriel Magalhaes. Like, he
Mm.
offers more on the edge of the box. I know it sounds batshit, but like,
No, yeah, I get what you're saying. But also, I think the Saka's goal against AC Milan comes from Lewis Skelly being wide and Kivior's being the man in the kind of half space to play that cross.
yep.
And also Kivior's passing's amazing as well. So yeah, I think having that ability to evolve is really, really important for every player. But we're seeing how Miles maybe playing slightly differently just gives loads of different solutions inside the pitch, which is really nice to see. And also, I think everyone's seen the videos of Gabriel Heinze trying to help him practice with his
From the left
crossing.
half space, yeah.
So yeah, that'll be interesting to keep an eye on as well.
It will be. And listen, just on the left back thing, I know that I've sort of captioned it as a joke, but we are a club that has sort of collected left backs over the last few years. But all of a sudden, with Tomiyasu's contract sort of termination, with Tierney being moved on, Tavares no longer there. We've obviously got Calafiori, we've got Kivior who can play there. Timber could probably move across, but Miles Lewis Skelly is now established as the main left back. Would you be averse to keeping Zinchenko as part of the squad? I mean, for me, he's a very technically good footballer, not the best defender, but is he a useful kind of Swiss Army knife to have?
He is, because he's a good player, but I do feel like now is probably the best time to part ways.
Of course.
I think when you're looking at, I guess, the makeup of the squad, ideally you want two players in every position. So I think when you look at left back, that's probably going to be, if we're talking ideal scenario, it'll be Miles and Calafiori. Then if you look at that left centre back spot, you can say Gabriel and Kivior. So you've got decent cover there. And I think Timber is an option as well that shouldn't be slept on. Sorry. So yeah, if it was me, obviously I'm not in charge, but if it was me, I would try my best to move Zinchenko on, and that's not to slight him. I just think it's the right time for all parties, because especially if you're getting to the ages of 27, 28, you still need to be playing football week in, week out, and I don't think that's going to be happening for him at Arsenal.
I think you're right. And listen, I think the club, when you think about all the noise around the summer, are trying to move him on. Sam Dean was on the channel of the Telegraph just a few days ago, and he was sort of saying how sometimes it's difficult to sell players from Arsenal because there's not really an upward move, and they don't necessarily want to move downwards. And they're so settled in one of the biggest cities, best cities in the world. Zinchenko's a family man. He's probably got children that go to school in London. He's settled. He's at a stage where in his life where he could probably see out the last sort of year of his contract without too much fuss and then get a really big move somewhere. There's no incentive for him to want to move, apart from us wanting to move him on. And of course, you've got to attract that interest. So look, Bert is doing some fantastic things in the market. Maybe this is something that's going to happen, but I guess I'm saying that I wouldn't be averse to just having him hang around as long as it didn't impact any sort of future additions to the squad. Let's move into midfield. We had our two new midfield generals playing. First up, Martin Zubimendi. I mean, he's blown me away. What's your take?
Amazing. I was really... So when he came in, I was expecting the progressive passing and the forward passes, but the volume of them in that first 45 minutes against AC Milan was just, mind blowing is a good word, because I just wasn't expecting... It felt like at least 80% of his passes were forward, especially when he got the ball kind of in the final third, when it's a packed penalty area, he's still trying to find those passes. And then I feel like, I can't remember if it was in the AC Milan game or the Newcastle game. It's blurring in my mind, but there was a really nice ball he played to Reece Nelson outside of the boot on the kind of left-hand side. And those types of passes as well, it's like, I think you're seeing, again, I used the word kind of evolution earlier. He's already made strides in that position from Arsenal's previous options there. So I think he was really, really promising. And I'd also be intrigued to see how the dynamic now works with Gyökeres up front, because I think When you look at how Arsenal play, there's so much space in behind sometimes that they're too slow to recognise. And I think if he's someone who's so forward thinking with a player that runs as powerfully as Gyökeres, then it should be a match made in heaven, hopefully.
Yeah, indeed. Some really lovely comments about Zubimendi coming in and sort of speeding up our play. I want to talk about that in just a second. Alex, art and latte firm equals magic. Thank you, Alex. I'll take that all day long. It's the guests who make the show, of course. Just on Zubi, we know that he is very much our metronome. You know, he's going to be our quarterback, pulling the strings. I've described him to many guests, and loyal viewers will know I sort of regard him as the volume dial. You know, every time if we need to speed up the tempo, if we need to get the ball higher up the pitch, this guy is going to be the controller. What I've noticed though is that we're playing a bit more direct football. Like, you know, obviously we've always been so used to, like, you know, the slow build up, that sort of domination outside our opposition box, but like we are playing the ball from deep. There's a nice sort of, there's a couple of clips going around on socials where someone's analyzed the way that we sort of play the ball into midfield, knock it back and then play it into space behind. And, you know, someone like Martinelli, someone like Victor Gyökeres, as you mentioned, is going to thrive on that. So really interesting tweaks that Arteta has made. And Zubimendi allows us to do this because he's got all the clubs in both feet. You know, left foot, right foot, short ping, long ping, across the floor, outside of the boot, inside of the boot, over the top, through the middle. Like, he's got it all. So it's really important that we get the best out of him and sort of, I guess it sounds bizarre, but like really protect him to make sure that he's ever present throughout the season. Christian Norgard, obviously, you know, former captain of Brentford, arrived for 11, 12 million quid. Heads rolled when we signed him. I got to be honest, he's not blown me away with anything. I mean, he's doing the simple things right. He looks a little rusty. Maybe it's a big step up for him. What's your take?
Yes, similar. I wasn't kind of taken aback by his performances, but I'm a fan of the signing. Maybe I'm not sure if that's the right way to put it, but I'm content with it because I think when you look at how he's played for Brentford in their 4 years in the Premier League, it's not just been about, I guess, the physicality and that side of things, which can be a stereotype. I think when you actually look at the way he played those, and spoke to Jay Harris, my friend and colleague at The Athletic, who obviously was Brentford's reporter, now Spurs. And he pointed out that a lot of the responsibilities that were put on him as kind of the deepest midfielder was being that first receiver and then playing the ball out wide under pressure. So I think that's something we're still yet to see properly, but I think should come. And I think when you look at how the season's going to go, you'd hope Arsenal get to that 60 match kind of tally, being in all competitions, and he'll be very valuable in getting them to that point, because I can't remember who it was in the chat, but they mentioned kind of the mental fatigue of being number one with David Raya. And it was a point that I think is very important to make, because when you look at his performances in April, you mentioned that little slump he had. I think it's very important to remember that he was playing pretty much every game in the Champions League that he could. Also in the League Cup, apart from the Bolton and Preston games. And can't remember what happened in the FA Cup, who would have played in those games, but I think he played a lot more football than most number ones last season.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I see Norgard as a floor raiser for our midfielder. You know, we lost Jorginho, who wasn't the most dynamic player, wasn't the most ever-present player. Obviously, the wrong end of his career. Thomas Partey, as we know, has moved on, when I think Zubimendi is a clear upgrade on that. For me, this is a guy who's going to come in and help us see out some games. This is a guy who's going to come in and potentially take minutes out of Declan Rice's legs, because not as a starter, of course. Let me make that clear. I think Declan Rice is a machine. He's an endurance athlete, but even he is not going to go 2, 3, 4 long seasons, bearing in mind when he signed for us, you know, West Ham went all the way into their Conference League. So at some point, you know, Arteta's going to have to rotate, and he's going to have to play him in cup games. And like you say, a leader, an experienced player, acclimatized in the UK, knows the intensity of the Premier League. I think he might surprise people, but certainly the first couple of games has probably come as a bit of a shock to him. You know, the pace and the intensity and the technical sort of, you know, the automatisms aren't there. You know, we talk about that all the time. We hear about it all the time. So he's got some work to do, but I'm not absolutely going to sort of write him off or anything. I think it's gonna come. Sorry, go on.
Just on that Rice point, because I've seen Dominic's put a comment in as well. I think Rice himself last week spoke about wanting to have an actual season, a full season of consistent performance, because last year, obviously the second half of the season was insane, really, when you consider his performances from January onwards. But he was quite slow and sluggish in the first half of the campaign. And he spoke about how, as you mentioned, the Conference League win in 2023, but then also going all the way to the Euros final with England in 2024. So I think during the season, actually, Mikel Arteta spoke about how many games both him and Saka had played. And I've got the numbers somewhere because I remember going back to them so often, but I can't remember off the top of my head. But it was a ridiculous amount of games over 2 full seasons. So
I'm not surprised.
Yeah, you know, I think it's really important to protect those players' legs.
Massively. You know, I've been doing this channel now for almost 3 years, and there were times in seasons gone by where we'd sort of say, "Oh, Saka's starting again." You know, at some point his legs are going to fall off, and then, you know, a few months later he loses a hamstring. And you know, it is so important that if you want to go strong across all fronts, and this is something Mikel Arteta needs to learn, he's got to have faith in the fringe players and the wider squad, and maybe that's why we've done a numbers thing over quality this summer. You know, it's about that depth, it's about those options. So hopefully that's something that Mikel learns. By the way, there are hundreds of you watching live on YouTube right now. If you're enjoying some of this content and tuning in for the first time, please do like the video, subscribe to the channel, set your notifications. Tomorrow we'll have Andrew Allen of Arsblog. We've got Adrian Clark coming up, Henry Winter. We've got Arsblog himself at some point. Sammy Mockbell will be back next week. So really trying to bring you all the best guests to talk about different features on a daily basis. And if you are listening via audio, Spotify or Apple, please do leave us a kind review. It's a massive help to the channel. Let's move up to the very top of the pitch and chat. Ignore the actually no. Let's do creative juice. This is something that I want to get your thoughts on, Art.
Yeah,
the skipper is back, and I've noticed. I don't know if you have, but his shooting boots are on. So let's talk about that. But let's also talk about the fact that Ethan Nwaneri, you know, David Ornstein broke the contract news and the fact that he was looking to play a more central role. And I think it's clear now that he's probably going to be understudy to the skipper. He's going to be that central creator. He started both of those games in pre-season in Singapore, and Odegaard coming off in both games off the bench. A, what do you make of Nwaneri's development, and what do you think he might do this season? And B, Martin Odegaard has finally remembered how to shoot.
So yeah, on Ethan, I think it's been really interesting to watch him in those areas, because I think over the past couple of years, I've spoken to, say, Mehmet Ali, who's now at Brentford, but was Arsenal under 21's head coach when Ethan had his couple of seasons in that team. And one thing he kept saying was they're trying to kind of develop him into a pocket player, pocket. Heard that word so often during those seasons. And obviously the reference point at the time was Martin Odegaard, because of the pockets of space he would get into for the first team. But I think their skill sets are very different. And you've seen that. I don't think Ethan's just tried to replicate what Odegaard does in that role. He's still trying to be himself, which is really important. So Odegaard, you'd see actually drift over to the touchline a lot more to combine with Saka, whereas Ethan has been a lot more central and kind of left Saka out on his own, not to forget about him, but to give him that space to actually go at a left back and give them real problems. And then when Nwaneri's more central, you can just see that it doesn't matter, I guess, where he is in those zones. He can still create something out of nothing. So that half volley he had against Newcastle, was it Newcastle? I'm pretty sure it was Newcastle.
There was a half volley. I remember.
Yeah,
the pre-season hazy mind.
Yeah. But yeah, that half volley where he takes the turn. He takes the touch out the sky basically, and then quickly snapshots across his body. I think that shows you the talent that's there. And yeah, sorry, Milan people are saying. So yeah, sorry, it's still preseason brain at the minute. But yeah, I think when you see moments like that, you see the player that Arsenal have on their hands. And going forward, I think I've said it on other podcasts, but I think these guys can coexist. I don't think there needs to be such a kind of one or the other kind of mindset.
Yeah.
Because when you look at how Arsenal could potentially play next season, there are so many different, I guess, skills in that midfield area that can kind of be taken advantage of.
Yeah, I think so. I think the fact that these two are actually very different players in profile, and we remember when Ethan Nwaneri burst onto the scene last season. He brought a real energy, directness, aggressiveness in the way that he runs at defenders, and he likes to shoot on sight. Odegaard for the longest time was frustrating the living daylights out of me with the sort of the spin, the 360 pirouette, which slowed a lot of things down. But there's good reason for why he was doing that. I think that's been sort of explained. But also the fact that he just wouldn't shoot, and he was always looking for that perfect pass. And the PSG game, remember the Donnarumma low save to the left, as heartbreaking as that was. But even in these preseason games, the team in general have been looking to shoot more from open sight, which is great to see. And I'm really looking forward to Martin Odegaard. The one thing that I think Nwaneri's going to have to work on, and of course he's a young boy, Odegaard is a master of the press, in that right central midfield. He gets really tight on the left centre back of the opposition, gets really tight on the midfielder sitting in behind him. Nwaneri's got to learn that. He's young, he'll have time, but he's going to learn from a top player. Let's move into the striker zone. Obviously, we saw the arrival of Victor Gyökeres. No, we're not. I've done it again. How can we not? Sorry, do you know what? I'm so looking forward to that one slide. How can we not talk about Max Stalman? I mean, look, I did a fantastic show last night for anybody who's watching for the first time with Will Balsam, formerly of Hale End Productions. He came on and we talked about Max's rise, and it's frankly absurd art. What this kid has been doing at 13 years of age, playing for the under-18s, 14 years of age on the UEFA Youth League and playing in Premier League 2, and of course now 15 years of age playing with the big boys. What else is there to say? 30 minutes of absolute magic. What did you make of it?
Yeah, it's hard to kind of say, really, just because, and I put this disclaimer whenever I'm asked about him, I do still feel quite weird talking about him, considering he's year 10, year 11 kind of age.
He's year 10. His school posted a comment on a photo saying that we're so proud of our year 10 pupil. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, so that always, it just seems so crazy. But I think the biggest compliment you can say is he was able to be himself, play with his own personality. Seen him play a few times in the flesh, and he always has that kind of that burst over kind of that first 5 yards, but he's able to maintain it. Remember being at the FA Youth Cup game against Manchester United at the Emirates, where at times he was actually being triple marked, and that was in the FA Youth Cup game where he's playing 3 years above his actual age, and he was still able to really take control of that game. And I guess the big moment from that game was him winning the ball, getting the ball inside of its own half, carrying it up into the United penalty area, winning a penalty and then scoring it. And I think when you see he's able to do the same, except not take the penalty this time against Newcastle, against a player like Joelinton, it's just ridiculous, really. And yeah, it's very, very encouraging for the future. So yeah, I don't want to be someone who puts pressure on him or anything like that. But it's very, very good to see, I think.
Well, just as you do that, D-Day Spring, welcome to the show, says he looks like Messi. And we've seen a lot of that. Messi, Kaká, Santi Cazorla with pace. And what's frightening, physically, he's 6 foot already. I didn't even realize the embrace that he's got on the right hand side there with Joelinton. Maximum sort of show of respect there from the Brazilian player. He's the real deal, this kid. It's going to be really interesting to see what Mikel Arteta does and how he's sort of involved in the club this season, if he gets any game time. But I'm super excited. And now I'm super excited to talk about our strikers because I think this is the actual slide. Right, here we go. Now, ignore the tactical drawings on the right-hand side. That's just back of the envelope stuff, and that's when we're sort of chasing a lead, and I'm going to come to that in a second.
Yeah.
Victor Gyökeres is the one. I absolutely adore him, Art. You know, I've been talking about him for a long time, and I'm so happy that he's here. And Kai Havertz has just basically been in the gym. He's been eating like protein for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. I thought Gyökeres was a big boy, but Kai Havertz in this photo looks like a giant. I mean, first of all, thoughts on Gyökeres signing, because obviously you've not been on the channel for a while, and we were chasing Šeško and Gyökeres at the time. And secondly, I mean, lead me to the conversation around who you think might be the main talisman for Arsenal, and could they play together? I mean, look, that graphic there is just it's just to get the sort of mouth watering. You know, we might be chasing a game, chasing a lead. It's chuck it in the mixer stuff in the last 10 minutes to go. Could they play together? Is that something that Arteta could do?
Yeah. So I'll start on, was it my feelings around the signing? So with that, I'm completely for it. I think when you look at how the summer developed, I think sometimes social media, Twitter, whatever, can get very black and white, and people get in their camps, whether you are a Šeško fan or a Gyökeres fan. Me personally, I was quite indifferent to all that chat, just because I found it quite exhausting. And I thought both players had kind of different skill sets that would both benefit Arsenal. So with Gyökeres, as we mentioned earlier, obviously very, very powerful runner into the channels, which I think will help Arsenal in kind of games where they need to stretch the defense, a thing that they haven't done for years, it feels like. And then also just his confidence as well, I think will be a massive thing for the team mentally. So for me, it's weird to say almost I didn't care which one joined. I was just happy that they made a decision on one, and they made it in July, not September. And in terms of, I guess, both of them, I think Gyökeres will probably be the one who's starting more games throughout the season. But I definitely think they can play together. When you look at, when we speak about, I guess, the makeup of the squad, you've seen Arteta use, say, a 4-4-2 before with Havertz and Trossard, where one will drop in, one will stretch the line. And I think both of these players can do those jobs. Also with Gyökeres, one thing that I think shouldn't go kind of unmentioned is his assists. Everyone kind of talks about his goals because the numbers are ridiculous. But for each of the last 3 seasons, he's got at least 10 assists in all competitions. A lot of those are, again, from channel runs where he cuts the ball back. But you need to make those runs to get those goals. And if you look at that graphic, you need Saka and Martinelli, Ødegaard, and whoever else is in those kind of front 5 positions to make the support runs to finish those moves. I think those are goals Arsenal don't really score a lot of. Kind of quick breaks, and it's something they can hopefully do a bit more often from next season onwards. And when you look at, again, just how much football Arsenal would want to be playing next season, I've mentioned this before elsewhere, but if you look at the women's team as a reference point, again, a Swedish striker, Stina Blackstenius, she was Arsenal's kind of main striker. Actually, no, to be fair, actually, she's kind of been the competition for the main striker for a while. At first, it was Vivian Miedema, who was obviously GOAT status. And then when she left, it was Alessia Russo, who, again, was the main striker throughout the season, got 20 goals in all competitions, I believe. But in the Champions League final, it was Blackstenius who scored the winner. So I think you're going to need all of these players. And obviously, Havertz has scored a Champions League final winning goal before. So let's hope something like that happens again.
Let's hope so. Yeah, no, it's not for everyone. And again, just to clarify, in case you've just joined, this is just a back of the envelope type drawing. In case we're chasing a game, chasing a lead at the end, you're just chucking on all your hitmen. Madueke's obviously not in there at the moment. That could be another interesting option for us to use. Do you know, it's really funny. Someone mentioned something about high-fiving, this sort of, they're sort of challenging each other to an arm wrestle. I don't know if you watched Predator back in the day, where you've got Dutch and Dylan, or maybe the famous meme, where you've got Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Oh, yeah. Okay, yeah.
That's where it comes from. And that's coming to my mind, Dutch and Dylan doing the old high five, but there we are. That's been really, really fascinating. I think there's a lot that we can take away, even though it's a tiny, small sample size. I've noticed a bit more direct with the ball, playing a bit more narrow, and the fullbacks doing their sort of overruns, the sort of little hit into midfield and touchback and playing in behind, maybe getting ready for Gyökeres. Calafiori looking really interesting. Zubimendi looking absolutely mind-blowingly good. Lots of things to look forward to, particularly in the next friendly sort of to come, which is Spurs, of course, and then we've got the 2 fixtures at the Emirates. But no daily grind would be complete without me asking my guest into the final few weeks of the transfer window. What do we reckon? News today that there is concrete interest in Leo Trossard. News also today that Arsenal would, if we were to move him on, still be interested in Eze and a winger. I mean, I don't think we're going to get too many more. I think it could be one more coming through the doors. What are you hearing? What are you feeling?
Yeah, I think with Trossard, what I would say is it's encouraging that there's interest now. When you look at the situation last season, it was, I believe, second game of the season, which was Aston Villa away, where all the Saudi talk kicked off. And by that point, I think Arsenal hadn't really put themselves in a position to then kind of go again, if that makes sense. So for those discussions to kind of be happening now, I think is helpful because it allows you to plan a bit more. And if you're looking at those two, when I say those two, I mean Trossard and Martinelli. Trossard is probably the one that you would sell because of his age. Yep. So I think if you're so just seen that. Yeah, to be fair, no, I watched Terminator when I was a teenager.
See, yeah. you need to watch Predator. It's an all-time.
I feel like I did. I feel like my dad made me watch Predator, but I was.
I mean, that would have been cruelty because it's quite terrifying. So, get involved in Predator, get involved in Commando, get involved in obviously the Terminator 1, Terminator 2. There are some absolute classics.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean,
yeah. So with Trossard, I think similar to what I was saying with Zinchenko, I think it could be a good time to part ways, especially if you want to, I guess, really push and evolve the squad even more. So yeah, with Jesus, just because he's there, I don't think anything's as far along as social media kind of reports suggested with, I think it was Flamengo. But obviously, when you look at the past couple of years, he is someone that Arsenal would have been open to offers for had he been fit to sell. So that's as kind of harsh as it might seem to say. That's another kind of downside to him getting injured when he did.
It is. It's a real shame, but hopefully he comes back. And if he doesn't get moved on, then hopefully he can do a job. And Eze, the one on the right there pictured, I mean, this is the pursuit that I think everyone wants to happen. It's been going on the summer. Apparently, we've engaged with conversation with Palace and they've turned away our first offer, but I think that one's going to go all the way down to the wire. That's been amazing. Before we go, D-Day Spring says, FK, it's my birthday today. Great to be part of this wonderful online forum. D-Day Spring. Wishing you a very happy birthday, my friend. Stay blessed. I hope the years to come bring you good health and tremendous prosperity, my man. Thank you for tuning in. Really appreciate that. And to the hundreds of you watching live on YouTube right now, it's amazing to have this community on a daily basis. Hopefully you've enjoyed that. Trying to keep it fresh, trying to keep new sort of content coming at you. If anybody wants to follow Art, he is available at Art de Roche. Art, you're also doing a piece on our global fan base that's coming out in a few days' time, isn't it?
Yeah, so hopefully before the tour ends in Hong Kong. So have tried to speak to people in quite a few continents. So I know someone right at the start said, don't forget Africa. I haven't for that piece. So yeah, hopefully that'll be with you guys in the next kind of couple of days, I'd say.
Good. Can't wait to read it, and I love your work, and I really am grateful for you making the time. Dan says, thanks, FKNR. We'll now watch from the beginning because he's rather late. Yeah, sorry, it was lately scheduled, but set your notifications and all that sort of jazz in future. Right, tomorrow we'll be back with Andrew Allen of Arsblog, so that's going to be pretty interesting. I've got my schedule here that I'm trying to work on for all of you lovely people. Laura Kirk will be back with us on Thursday night to look back at the North London derby. Rohan Jivan is coming of the Cannon podcast on Saturday. Haroon Hickman, who's just been in the chat, will be joining me on Sunday. Adrian Clark next week. Loads more guests to come. How are you not entertained, ladies and gents, boys and girls? Right, Art, have yourself a wonderful evening. Viewers, enjoy yourselves. Enjoy work, school, tomorrow, university, whatever it is that you choose to do. Actually, no, it's holidays. Summer holidays, you lucky lot. Look after yourselves. Take care and enjoy the evening. It is bye for now.